I think it's going to be handled correctly as we enter 2025 with the new administration and everything. I think it's going to be a great year and we'll be in recovery mode, which will be great for real estate.
2025, I think, is going to be a good year in our industry. Very good year for a lot of reasons.
Welcome to the Jeff Sutherland Show. Let's grow today as we learn from decades of real estate and leadership experience.
We want you to know that when you log into this show, you're going to get authentic conversation. We're going to give it to you straight, and it's going to be real. Hey, everybody, this is Jeff Sutherland and my co-host Bella Loomis as we host the Jeff Sutherland Show. And today is our 12th episode. I can't believe we're on our 12th episode already. It's been amazing, Bella. We've had now over 5,000 views on our show. I'm so grateful for our audience. I'm so grateful, and the fact that I'm hoping we're adding value into your lives. And today we have a privilege of having Mark and Mel Bonds from the Mark and Mel team out of Phoenix, Arizona. And together, this powerhouse couple has over 60 years of collective real estate, appraising, and lending experience in our industry. You know, they've probably pretty much seen it all in the area of real estate. And speaking of seeing everything, they just finished up a year-long boat ride called the Great Loop. And we're going to hear all about that today. That's going to be that'll blow your mind. So welcome to the Jeff Sutherland Show, Mark and Mel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
So excited you're here. So Mark and Mel, first, tell us about your stories. I want to hear about your background. How about you first, Mel? I know I've known you for quite a while. And what a story of perseverance you have. Probably one of the biggest stories I know of. People that have come back, not just once, but twice. And so I really respect you for that. So Mel, tell us a little bit about yourself. We want to get to know you.
Oh, that's really very nice coming from you, Jeff. Thank you. I really admire you. I'm really honored to be partners with you. I knew you back in the 80s, I think, or the 90s, but I started in the 80s. I did start in the 80s as I went and got a realtor's license. I said I'd never be a realtor because my dad was. And I saw the ups and downs of that life and really great highs and really great lows. And so I never was going to do that, but I got my license and but I was starting a family. So I had to step away from that. In 1986, my first daughter was born. And so I stayed at home for a couple of years but I just had that need to get back to work. And so the thing I knew was real estate. So I got hired on by a major lender, and they needed help in the appraisal department. So I got certified as a real estate appraiser in 1990. I was doing the work in the office in the late 80s, but I got certified and licensed, took all the courses and everything, and then stayed with them for 10 years. I was with that company. I appraised real estate for them in California, Washington, and then came to Arizona. So when I came to Arizona, there was just a big need for appraisals at that time. And since I had that experience, I decided to open my own company and I did my own thing. That's where I was really meeting you and getting to know more realtors. And, you know, the appraiser is always the one that sees the glass half empty, but the realtor sees it half full. And so I just thought it was just great to get to know you more and meet other top agents. It was really fascinating to me. I didn't think I would become a realtor, but the Great Recession came, and then I was hired on actually by a major financial institution to review appraisals, not just for Arizona, but across the country, because there was so much loss going on. And so they hired me, to help them with the loss mitigation. And I did that until 2010. And then, you know my story. I had a tragedy. I lost my husband of 30 years. And so it was, I had to resign. And so I started doing the only thing I knew was fixing and flipping homes because I knew the market. And as we recovered from 2010, as we slowly recovered, I was able to fix up homes and resell them for more and just take what my experience had helped me do. And I met Mark, and then we were able to fix and flip a lot of homes together. I was able to tap into his longtime experience as a realtor. And the next thing you know, we're together. I'm very grateful for all his support and the transition back into being a licensed real estate agent.
Wow. So you basically brought lending, appraising, and real estate expertise together. I mean, that's like the ultimate, right? You guys like know everything about how to do deals. When you were an appraiser, did you actually go out to the houses then and do appraisals?
Yes. I went everywhere. I was actually required to do a minimum of about 200 appraisals a day. That was our average, not a day, 200 a year, not a day.
Yeah.
So I was driving all over in San Diego and all over when I was in Washington, all over in 1995. So I knew all these communities in Arizona because, I remember one time I went from all the way in Rio Verde, all the way to Maricopa, down to Queen Creek and back over to East Mesa and Gold Canyon. And I was just wiped out that day. But yeah, it did help me immensely in knowing communities and knowing more about real estate. So I love bringing that as a realtor, bringing that to our clients.
It's funny. I kind of think there's two types of appraisers, right? Because when I go out to my sellers' listings and I go out and meet the appraiser, because I always teach that you should do that. I suit up, man. I put on the good clothes. I want to make sure he knows that I'm all business, and I'll sit down with that appraiser at the kitchen table and ask them if they have 5 minutes. And I think there's two types of appraisers from my experience. One would be the appraiser that is very thankful. And they're like, thank you so much for providing me all this information and additional information. And then there's the other appraiser who's like, why do I need your help? I know what I'm doing. I don't really need your stuff. And they kind of look at you like you're trying to influence them. And of course, yeah, we're trying to uphold the value of the house where it's been sold. But I always find it fascinating, the different reactions that I get from appraisers when I'm coming out there and I'm sharing information like upgrades and anything that they. Yeah, right. How do you feel about that?
So important. Yeah, most appraisers that have been in the industry a long time, they know when someone's trying to influence them or not. They know when someone's trying to be helpful. And the majority of good appraisers out there that have been in the industry a long time, they love that information. You can give them as much data as possible, and it helps them. Otherwise, anybody who doesn't want that shared with them is really kind of going into it a little bit more blind, because appraisers are just human beings. So that's very helpful from an agent.
Now, I want to delve into something that's, obviously more personal to you, Mel. You've made some major comebacks. You lost your late husband, and he was a great man, and now you're married, obviously, to another great man. And so you had to come back from that. And you've also come back from some devastating physical ailments. You broke your back. So, that's just not normal. That's why I have so much admiration for you. And you kind of reinvented yourself, through those situations. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that for our audience?
Yeah, that's fine. I think you basically have two options, right? When you're pushed up against a wall with whatever, whether it's a financial situation or a physical situation or whatever you're dealing with, I think each time I went through something, I had two options. I could stay in a state of depression, or I could work through it with help and get through it and do the necessary work to get through it and become stronger and to get through it to the other side. And then you do actually get stronger, I think, and it helps you kind of reinvent yourself and become more. So I think it really, it just depends on, how you're going to stay. I learned a long time ago, it does not help living in the past. I know a lot of people that live in the past. My late husband would not have wanted me to live in the past. He was always very upfront. I respected him and his opinion, and he was a great father to our kids. But I know what he would have wanted. He would have wanted me to keep bettering myself and keep pushing on. So that's the best thing I could give for advice there. Don't let it knock you down. You can stay, you can get knocked down is okay. To stay down is not okay. Just get back up, do whatever you have to do to work through it.
Wow,
and that was the same with the back break. I mean, Mark saw me and supported me through the back break, and that was a horrible accident. I was about ready to give up again. And he was like, you got to quit feeling sorry for yourself. And he's the one that supported me in saying, you can help me with the real estate. And then he said, you can actually get your license. You can do way more. And sure enough, I did the work that was necessary, physical, whatever I needed to do to get through that pain. And then took you guys up on it, and I was able to break through that and get my real estate license and be successful with it. So I'm really grateful.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So as far as defining moments go, like those defining moments where you're like, you know what, I got to move forward. Was it because people like Mark or myself, let's say, or anybody, or what was the defining moments, when you were like, okay, I have to move forward?
I think it is who you surround yourself with is very important, super important, to not enable you, to not maybe poo-poo you either, to encourage you that, to make the next step, whatever that next step is, to improve your life and to get better. And of course, I believe in God. I believe Jesus is with me through all these moments. And I believe that that little voice inside there, it said, listen to these guys. Listen to these guys because they're right. You can do it, and you can do it better. And don't get stuck in that place that's, that you're going through a tough time. Just go through it, and you can see some amazing growth out of that.
Oh, thank you, Mel. Thanks for sharing.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a story, Mel. Just of perseverance and success. Thank you for sharing.
My
And Mark,
pleasure.
how about you? You have so much experience. I know that Jeff always tells me he looks up to you. He always comes to you for advice. Tell us your story.
Well, let's go way back. I first got licensed back in 1985. I was actually working as a nightclub disc jockey, which I'd been doing for a number of years. And I decided I needed something a little more mainstream and more stable than that. So I got my real estate license. And I was very, very fortunate. About 6 months into the business, I was ready to quit. I was not making any money. I had no sales. I had one listing only because that was a good friend that listed their home with me. And I was getting ready to quit the business. And I went to a broker meeting. I don't know if anybody, Jeff's probably old enough to remember where, not broker meeting, MLS meeting. We had weekly MLS meetings that we would always attend. And I attended this MLS meeting to tout the one listing that I had. I was going to keep my license long enough to sell my listing and get a commission. And I happened to sit down next to a guy that was a broker at a RE/MAX office. I was with Better Homes and Gardens at the time. And one thing led to another. And I mentioned to him that my situation, I was getting out of the business because I wasn't making any money. And he said, you know what, before you do that, come visit with me. Well, how about this afternoon? So I did, met with him, moved my license over to RE/MAX, which was a pure 100% brokerage back then in the 80s, where you paid over $1,000 a month to work there, but you got 100% of your commissions. And he says, you just have to do what I say. He said, I won't even charge you the $100,000 a month to work here until you're making money, and then we'll work it out. And he gave me a script and said, you be here every day from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. and you cold call from the newspaper. You cold call for sale by owners. And that's what I did. And it worked out pretty well. I earned gross commissions for the next 12 months in excess of $60,000, which is pretty good in 1985-ish. And that's the beginning of my story. So as things progressed, during the late 80s, I kind of got introduced to a bank and started handling REO properties. So I got out of the for sale by owner stuff and transitioned more into bank-owned properties and ended up representing about three banks through a few years there into the 90s. And then I got a little more involved in foreclosures in general. and short sales. I kind of transitioned through the 90s to the 2000s from the REO properties into helping people with short sales. And for a while there, I was advertising directly to people that had had notices of trustee sale recorded against them. I would send them letters, go on listing appointments, and assist them with doing a short sale in most cases. And that eventually transitioned into the 2000s of starting to buy some of these distressed properties, and even going into the buying of properties at trustee sale, actually attending the sales myself. And I got really involved in fix and flips. So the 2000s for me, I was way more into fixing and flipping properties than I was into listing and selling properties for other people. And that was pretty much my focus right up until I met Mel in 2012. And then we did a number of fix and flips together. And then we started transitioning out of that into more of a traditional type of real estate without the focus on one specific thing like REOs or short sales, more traditional, general real estate.
And just for our audience, Mark, could you explain what an REO is? Real estate owned, right? Yeah. Could you explain a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, real estate owned is a banking term used for banks that have real estate that they've taken into their they now own based from a foreclosure sale where they ended up getting the property back, rather than it selling to a third party at trustee's sale. If nobody bids on it or beats the minimum bid, then the bank gets it back, and that's just the portfolio of homes that they own that they need to sell, real estate owned or REO properties. So
okay. Wow. So you've done quite a bit. Fix and flips, bank-owned property, short sales. And then over the last few years, have you focused more on the retail side of it?
Absolutely. Much more traditional with marketing primarily to sellers. In fact, my advice to anybody in real estate is if you're going to be successful in there, whatever marketing you're doing, market for the purpose of getting listings. Buyers will come. You're going to end up working with buyers, but market yourself for the purpose of getting listings. You can handle a lot more listings at one time than you can buyers at one time. So,
yep. For all those agents out there that are looking for an edge, I always tell them, you need to market for listings because there's less time in listings. There's more time with buyers, and of course, different markets are going to have buyers markets or sellers markets, but you should always be marketing for sellers because then you can put a sign in the yard 24/7, your shop's open all the time. Back to your career though, Mark, what's your favorite part of it? You've done so many things.
To be very honest with you, I really enjoyed the fix and flips. I really enjoyed the taking a really bad, horrible property in some cases and turning it into something special, and that whole process. Fortunately, Mel is much more of a people person than I am. I'm a lot better with the details and like the construction aspects of that, and I really enjoyed that. In fact, every home we've lived in, 3 or 4 homes since we've known each other, or since we've been together anyway, and every one of them was the equivalent of a fix and flipped, except we flipped it to ourselves, and we did major remodeling along the way. And believe it or not, we just went under contract 2 weeks ago on a new home, and guess what? It's completely gutted. We're waiting for cabinets right now. Flooring's all been removed and all that, and we're living in our RV just a few blocks from our home while that's going on. So
the thing though that is so important about that is he's been able to take that information because he can just remember all the numbers of what it took for cost of everything in any of those fix and flips way more extensively than I ever did. And he can share that with home sellers to the extent that they want to update to get more from the sale of their home. But they don't always need to do everything. In fact, we've gotten lots of listings that way to where somebody previously, an agent told them, you should do this, and they were like, we don't have that money. And they had us over and we were like, well, I would start with just this and this. And they said, well, we can do that. And then we were able to sell their home quickly and at top dollar. So it's not always an expensive thing that you have to do to prepare your home for sale.
And I think a lot of people don't realize when you're a real estate agent, we get these questions all the time from sellers. Should I fix this? Should I fix that? And, you, Mark, you're kind of the numbers guy. Mel, you're the people person, right? But you've had all this experience with fix and flipping. So you can give them good estimates right out of the gate. How much would it take to remodel my kitchen? And those prices have been, by the way, going up like crazy. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think your background is so huge. I mean, you have the whole gamut. You got the appraising, lending, and then the fix and flips. One more question, Mark, for you is: would you do anything differently when you look back at your career? Would you have gone a different direction with it, or are you like thinking, "Man, I'm totally satisfied. I've made all the right moves." Would you do it differently?
The one thing I think I'd do differently is in some of those fix and flips, turn them into fix and holds, and created a significant real estate portfolio over the years. That's probably my biggest failure as a real estate agent, being in this industry and not tapping in to the residual income of having income producing properties, to be very honest with you.
Well, me too, Mark. I wish I would have started earlier with that. The buy and hold strategy. I tell a lot of people, if you want to build wealth in real estate, it's kind of boring. It's a good 10 to 20 year plan. Occasionally you see people get, turn profits very quickly, but I'm of the same belief. I have buy and hold properties, and I know it's going to take a little while, but I'm in the same boat. I wish I'd have started earlier and been more aggressive earlier in my career. I guess the last question back to Mel is, you have such an incredible background with lending and appraising. So how has that helped you when you're working with buyers and sellers? Where's your, how has that secret sauce helped you?
Okay. Well, I think it's funny you say that, because I think about when I help buyers, I'm looking at things. I can't get that appraiser mentality out of me, even though I've gotten more of a realtor mindset in me. I still have that protective nature in me. So I'm always comping things out to make sure they know how much this property is worth and what the trends are. I don't just say, oh, they're going to have refis. You're going to be able to refinance this, so buy at this high rate. We never said date the rate and marry the house or whatever that was, because I think a year ago they were saying rates were going to drop and they didn't. I would never have wanted our clients to look back and regret anything. So I never want to predict something like that. I just want to tell them the trends. Here's what's happening, and here's what you need to be aware of, whether it's unemployment's increasing or whatever, to just prepare and not overbuy. But also for home sellers, I want them to know also how to get the most out of their property as quick as in their timeline, because also I can see, based on being an appraiser, I look at those trends and I look around the corner also what's coming. So based on what they want to do, I share that so that they can make the best decision possible for their need to sell. And I mean, the market, we hear everybody say, the market only goes up. Well, we know it has gone up, but it'll do this all along the way. So do you want to buy down here or do you want to buy up here? It's all something to be aware of. So,
and you just, one last thing on that, I think we got to be very careful for those that are buyers and sellers that are listening to this, or other real estate practitioners. It's not our role to predict the future. We're not economists.
Right.
Forecasting is a dangerous thing because people look to us as being professionals, but there's certainly nothing wrong with sharing empirical data, historical data, and show them trends. But when you start, forecasting the future, you're putting yourself in a very difficult situation if things don't work out the way you're predicting.
Yes, That's very well said.
So both of your journeys not only have helped buyers and sellers, but how has it helped, fellow agents in our group, that our colleagues? How have you guys gave back to our industry?
No, I think Mark is such a great benefit to the group. I just wish he would do it more, but sometimes he is a little bit too humble, I think, in my opinion. I think he has a lot to share, just like Jeff said. He respects him. They're able to, reach out to one another for feedback, to get the best answer. Like Jeff said, it's just not a good idea to just guess on things. You just really want to be as accurate as possible for your clients. And I think that's what I really appreciate about Mark. He's just, I know he has caught so many mistakes on contracts on the other side that I just feel very confident with him catching stuff like that. He's just very particular about that. So I feel like that brings a lot to the people that he's training. And I wish we'd started a team a lot longer. I just, didn't appreciate that. I didn't appreciate, just like you said about rentals. I think if we had started that a long time ago, and the benefit of having a team of other agents that you're able to support each other, I mean, we couldn't have done the loop without the support of this group. So,
well, I think we both really try to make ourselves available to other agents within our organization at EXP and CRG and all that. I'm a phone call away. If you've got a question, I can share whatever experience I have that might help you out. And just, not that I'm the greatest realtor that ever lived, but I've seen a lot in 40 plus years of doing this. Well, actually, it'll be 40 years.
Oh my God.
40 years in 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We're dating ourselves.
But I've seen a few things. And so there's not many things that I haven't encountered along the way. And I'm happy to share that. And doing some training videos and such that we've done through CRG, even some live stuff. As you know, I'm not that excited about the whole public speaking thing personally, but I've done it occasionally. So
I can't wait to tap more into him on any free moment coming up this next year. I'm going to get it out on our channel.
Yes. Mark, when I first started, I watched videos of you going through the contracts and just speaking it in layman terms. So you guys have such a wealth of knowledge, and it's so appreciative that you guys share that.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
I think there's different kinds of givers. I think there's givers that give with an agenda because they want something in return. And there's givers that just give and they expect nothing in return. They just give because that's part of their spirit. So I just want to give kudos to you guys because that's godly behavior. That's the reason we should give, and without any expectation coming back. And it's a pretty powerful thing. And we're very honored to have you around us. I want to talk about the fun part of this segment, which I've been excited about, and that is that you guys, you've always told me you wanted to go on a big boat ride around the United States. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool, But you see, a lot of people dream, and then there's people that dream and actually do it. And you guys did it. You went off, you bought a boat, and you went on this excursion called the Great Loop. And this is something that I didn't even know it existed until you told me about it. So tell our listeners about the Great Loop. Now it's time to tell some stories about what you did for a whole year. You took a break from the real estate industry for a whole year and went on this Great Loop thing. Tell us about this. Boom.
Well, it's called America's Great Loop. If you Google that phrase, you'll find all kinds of information about it. And like you said, we bought a boat. It's not something you can call a travel agent and book a spot on. That doesn't exist. If you want to do it, you need to get your own boat to do it. And I learned about it probably around 30 years ago. I read a book about this, that some guy that has done it even back then multiple times wrote this book. I thought, gosh, I want to do that someday. And I've had a poster on the wall that we have had in our house for many years of a picture of a map of the eastern United States showing the routes that you do this. But in a nutshell, the Great Loop is a 6,000-mile boat trip, which is a circumnavigation of the eastern United States. We bought our boat on Lake Michigan. It was in the Chicago area when we moved on to it a year ago, September. So that's where we started the loop. And we basically did a complete loop around the eastern United States. To give you an idea for those people that it's hard to comprehend this. From Chicago, for instance, was right where we started. We went right through downtown Chicago and the Chicago River, which took us to the Illinois River, which took us to the Mississippi River. We traveled about 150, 180 miles down the Mississippi River and turned left on the Ohio River and went about 60 miles upstream on the Ohio River. And then we turned right on the Tennessee River And the Tennessee River, basically that and a man-made waterway called the Tennessee-Timbagbe Waterway, took us all the way to Mobile, Alabama, and the Gulf of Mexico. We crossed the corner of the Gulf of Mexico. We went down the Intracoastal Waterway on the west coast of Florida, on the Gulf side, all the way down to the Everglades. Spent an amazing time in the Everglades. Then we went across down to the Keys, and we spent about 2 weeks in the Keys, Key West, Marathon, Key Largo. Then we entered the Atlantic Intracoastal Waterway and going north past through Miami, Fort Lauderdale, all the way up the Atlantic coast to the Chesapeake Bay, then up through the Chesapeake Bay, then scooted over to New Jersey, then up the Atlantic side of New Jersey, all the way to the Hudson River in New York City. We have a picture of us with our boat right in front of the Statue of Liberty. That day we went there, and then up the Hudson River. Then when you go up the Hudson River up to upstate New York, you've got a couple options, and we chose the option of we could have gone straight all the way up to Montreal, Canada, but we took the Erie Canal over to a place called Oswego, New York, where we jogged over to the Great Lakes. We got back into the Great Lakes at Lake Ontario, crossed Lake Ontario up the St. Lawrence Seaway to the Thousand Islands area, then crossed over to Canada. Then we went through a corner of Canada called the Trent Severn Waterway. By the way, this trip includes going through locks, because when you're on these inland waterways, these waterways, especially the man-made portions of them and the man adapted portions of them, you've got to go up and down. You can't go down the rapids in a 45-foot motor yacht. So you've got to be lifted up or down based on the terrain. We went through over 120 locks on this trip, either up or down. Some of them on each of the rivers I talked about. And the Trent Severn Waterway, this 300-mile section in Canada, that one waterway itself has 45 locks. And we went through those. And then basically that was the end of our locking. When we got back into the Great Lakes, we traveled across the north part of Lake Huron in an area called the North Channel, which was very pretty. And then up around the very top of Lake Huron, and then we went under Mackinac Bridge at the top of Michigan and down the west coast of Michigan on Lake Michigan, and then back to our starting point near Chicago. And we got there, we put the boat up for sale, sold it almost immediately, and then here we are.
That is so beautiful.
Almost exactly 1 year to the day we lived on that boat.
I first of all, I can't believe you just gave me the whole history of every river, like no problem. I can't believe you remember all of that. That's amazing. How many people do this every year? Like, how many boaters are doing this great loop?
Well, when we were getting really in the planning stages just a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, only about 125 to 150 couples / boats did it. And it's not like there's nobody that keeps absolute track of people doing it, because it's not something you do as a group per se. You do it individually. A lot of people just do it and don't tell anybody in the world that they've done it. But we joined an organization called the America's Great Loop Cruisers Association several years before we started the loop, which is a group that supports people and is a great resource for planning and accomplishing the loop. And they measure their members that do it. And back then, like in 2019, 2020, 120 to 150 boats were doing it. But in 2024, when we did it, we did it September 2023 to September 2024, there were about 300 boats that did it. And interestingly enough, the COVID lockdowns caused a surge in people doing the loop.
Wow.
When we bought our boats were hard to find. They were getting more expensive because during COVID, there was a surge of people buying boats. I guess not necessarily for the loop, but a lot of people doing the loop as well. But about 300 boats do it every year. And most of the time, that's a couple. husband and wife generally.
So I know, Mel, Mark, this has been a dream of yours for years. And Mel has always been very supportive of you, Mark. So when you went on that cruise, Mel, were you liking it at first? Were you hating it? Tell me the truth. I mean, what do you think of it?
I was so filled with adrenaline. It was very exciting, and it was new and different. And so I just got into it. Not that I always liked it. There was moments when I was just a little freaked out because this gigantic boat, is coming up against this wall, and I'm in charge of pulling these fenders out and explaining on a headset how to maneuver up there so we don't run into it or a dock or something like that. But he did very well. He did very well with the learning curve. And, I can look back at our videos because we did do a channel, and I was so full of adrenaline. I can tell the difference because I was excited, just crazy. It was grab the camera, get this, so many situations, and learning so much about navigation and weather and tides and things like that. But it was amazing because of the history around it, the history you see, because this is the original channels that were built to, for the nation, to grow the nation, right? So I couldn't get my head out of the people that comment on our channel now. It's I love the way you guys bring in your real estate background when you're looking at a city. You can't get away from it. It's just there. So it was fascinating.
Well, I can't say enough how this would not have happened without Mel. I wasn't 100% certain I was going to accomplish this goal of mine that I'd had for 30 years until she basically said, we need to do it. Yeah. We're getting up there in age. We need to do it before it's too late. And we were a crew. I mean, that's one thing about it. It's not something you just go out and do. You've got to kind of figure out the proper way to do things. And it takes two people this was quite a large boat, over 45 feet long, 51 feet total, including everything tip to tip, and 15 feet wide. And without her down there on the side rails, going up to a dock or going up to the wall of a lock, because that's how you have to tie off inside of a lock when you're going up and down. We have headsets. We're communicating with each other. I can't see the sides of the boats. I don't know when we're going to hit. So she has to guide me through the headsets and all that stuff. But one thing that we learned very early on in the first 10 days or so of this trip, it was way more work than we expected to do. It was a lot of effort, both physical and mental and emotional.
For me.
It's a very steep learning curve. I've been boating all my life on lakes in Arizona, but what we were doing was nothing like that. Yeah. It was a whole new world. So,
I know one thing. I know Bella's vibing with your story because they have a conversion van. I know how much she loves adventures, right, Bella?
Yeah, but it's work.
But it's work. Yeah. It's worth it though. It's worth it to do that. And I feel like there's people that, you should at least support somebody, your spouse, in something. If it's a bucket list, at least try to support. We did know some people that would say, I'm not traveling with you over to, that open water on the Gulf, or they wouldn't travel the overnight trip or whatever. And they would go and wait until they were across and with somebody else, another partner, and then meet them. And that's okay too. But you learn after a while, there's not one way to do something. It's whatever you can do, and don't push your limit on pushing unsafely, right? Because you had to watch the weather and stuff. Just don't be unsafe about it. We never were. We learned really quick about reading, the tides and the weather and everything. And we really took that. I'm glad he was that way. Otherwise, I would have been a mess. He was very supportive as a team member. And that's so, but there can only be one captain. And the stuff that he did, there's no way I could have done. He worked so much more on that engine and knowing everything about electronics. And it was amazing how much work he did on that boat.
Wow. Okay, so you guys have documented it on YouTube, and that's so amazing just to look back on. And you guys have created a large following, which is so cool. How can our audience find you on YouTube?
At Mark and Mel. If you go to YouTube and put in at Mark and Mel, you'll find our YouTube channel for the boat. And if you go at Mark and Mel Team, you'll find our YouTube channel for real estate.
Yeah, it's at the Mark and Mel Team, and then at just Mark and Mel. You see the YouTube.
That's right, the Mark and Mel Team.
Yeah, the real estate is at the Mark and Mel Team, and then the boat journey is at Mark and Mel. Very simple, at Mark and Mel. You can't miss our big boat on the profile pic.
Yeah, you're like YouTube famous. That's so good. So
we've almost got 2,000 followers. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I've worked for years to get that kind of following. You go on a boat trip, you get 2,000. That's awesome.
Who knew? We did it for family and friends. I think you just have to, the more authentic, the better. They want to know about the good, the bad, everything in between.
So tell us about your 2025, another chapter. What's your, where are you going to go? What's your next chapter next year?
Well, we're going to keep doing this real estate thing for a while. We're going to focus on something that I talked about we didn't do very well over the years, and that's acquire some income-producing properties in 2025. That's a goal of ours to do that. Continue helping buyers and sellers. We're not ready to quit yet, even though we're approaching that age where a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Or at that age where a lot of people do.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, by the way, when you guys left for that voyage, you released a lot of pounds, I believe. You guys look fantastic. When you guys came off that boat, I was like, wow, you guys look amazing. So not only were you like challenging yourselves emotionally and mentally and physically, but like you really look healthy, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I think I got like some more gray hair from that.
You look great. You look great. So again, how to get a hold of you? What's the best way? You got the YouTube channel. What are any other ways that people can get a hold of you?
Well, we have
email and cell phone.
Yeah, yeah. Cell phones always. I mean, we answer our what's our phone number? I'm blanking. 480.
We haven't used our real estate phone number in a while, like a year. 480-462-7355 is our 480-462-7355 is a number that rings both of our cell phones.
Yeah.
So that's the easiest way to get a hold of us.
Leave a message. We love answering questions, free consultations, agents that want to tap into us, we're open for that. Just leave a message. Also, we on Facebook, it's the same thing. It's at the Mark and Mel Team, and on Instagram, it's at the Mark and Mel Team.
Perfect. And as we come down the home stretch, we're interviewing Mark and Mel Bonds, real estate experts, appraisals, lending experts, just an amazing couple out of Mesa, Arizona. They've really graced so many people with their career and helped so many hundreds of buyers and sellers. We hope you enjoyed this program. As far as myself, we operate the Jeff Sutherland team, also out of Phoenix, Arizona. I humbly ask you to subscribe to my show. It's building a lot of momentum. It's called the Jeff Sutherland Show, and it's on YouTube and other podcast channels. Send us topics that you'd like us to cover. In the spring of 25, we're going to shift gears on this show. We're going to unpack the steps to helping buyers and sellers transact real estate. We're going to get a little more tactical so you can better understand. And we're also going to be bringing in big-time investors that have achieved their dreams through the accumulation of real estate. So it's going to be a power-packed first quarter. And so as a final word, I always like to give our guests the final word. So anything you want to share with our nationwide audience before we leave this program today, Mark and Mel?
Go ahead.
Well, I think it's going to be, I'm really encouraged, actually. I would encourage everybody, whether it's a home buyer who feels they can't get their foot in the door, or if it's a home seller who feels stuck, they want to maybe downsize in the future, or move to a retirement community. I would say, and if they're investors, I would say there's going to be opportunities for all those people as we go into 2025. And agents too, just don't expect it overnight, because it's like the worst thing you want to do, right, is like put gasoline in a fire truck to put out a fire, right? You have to use water, and it's it's just, if you just lower rates and you just, don't do anything about supply, this, we could have inflation again. But I think it's going to be handled correctly as we enter 2025 with the new administration and everything. I think it's going to be a great year, and we'll be in recovery mode, which will be great for real estate.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
2025, I think, is going to be a good year in our industry. Very good year for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, and I would fully endorse Mark and Mel. If you are, in the Phoenix area and you want great fiduciary service, please look them up. They'll take very good care of you. They're very hard workers, full of integrity. They'll do a good job for you. It's been a blessing to have you guys on the show today. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I hope our audience enjoyed it. And thanks for tuning in and being with all of us today. And thanks for tuning in to the Jeff Sutherland Show. So you guys all take care. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Bella.